In this video, we're going to look at the GTM skill test by Simo Ahava. I'm actually going to go through it and see how I do and if I can answer the questions. All and more coming up. Hey there, Magic Geeks. Julian here, back with another video. Today, we're going to take the GTM skill test that was developed by Simo Ahava on his new site, Team Simmer. So if we want to take a look at this, this is what it looks like. You can actually follow along while you're taking the test, although I believe the question order is random, so it might not make this. You might not be able to follow along here, but you can follow along obviously on the screen itself. And we are all doing this live, so I haven't seen this test before, so it will be quite interesting how I score. Hopefully it will help you out, and maybe you can watch this and say, hey, I know this question or I don't know this question. It is pretty long because there are 99 questions in here, and he gives us 1 hour to answer them. So let me see if I'll be able to do this. Actually, let me see. Let me see if I can log in here. Well, maybe I shouldn't do this on screen. I'll just log in here. Because if you take the quiz, you can actually get a little certificate as well. And so, yeah, let's dive in and see how it goes, shall we? Cool. All right. So first question. We are ready to start. What is automatically generated when you create a new container? A live container version, a GA4 tag, none of these, and all elements trigger. All elements trigger. None of these, I would say. Definitely no live version, GA4, and the all elements trigger is, there's an all pages trigger. Okay, how many different container types are available when you create a new container? Different container types that are available when you create a new container. Okay, so there's a web container, there is the AMP container, there is the iOS container, or iOS SDK kind of thing, and there's the Android one. Now, is there any else? And by the way, I'm not gonna go on Google. All of these questions can be easily Googled, but let's go from my knowledge here. So I would go with 4. Maybe 5, maybe there is one for PWA, but that wouldn't make too much sense. So yeah, I'll go with 4. Let's see. Unfortunately, we don't get any feedback here, but we'll get the feedback in the end. Only verified vendors can have their templates included in the Tag Manager community gallery. It's a community gallery, so that is false. When you export a container, all the fields are set to blank to preserve privacy. That is false as well. I know that from the GTM copy-paste extension, that when you export a container, then there's a lot of information in there actually to know which container it came from. Which of the following is not available in a data layer when a click trigger fires? So click trigger, okay. The class of the clicked element, that is available in GTM element. The clicked element itself, that's also in a GTM element. The event object, or the ID of the click. So I would go with the event object. So if you know JavaScript, there is an event object in any kind of listener, and that is probably not transferred into the data layer, I would guess. Let me just see here if the chat is still with me. Okay, yeah. You guys keep on guessing. And Matteo, you probably know some of these questions, so I already went through them. So the Google Tag Manager container snippet can be loaded in a JavaScript file. I would say that's false because it is HTML, right? And there's also the JavaScript snippet. There are 2 kind of snippets. So I think it can only be loaded inside of a HTML file. You could take the JavaScript and put it into another JavaScript file, but then it wouldn't be the complete snippet anymore. Anyways, that is just my guess. You can delete a variable that is referenced in a tag. Delete a variable that is referenced in a tag. I would say true. Is this true? No. I would say false. You cannot do it in the interface. Maybe you can do it through the API, that you just delete. Maybe you would be able to do it through the API, but I will go with false here. That's just my guess again. What is data layer? A data warehouse system created, owned by Google? No. A tool designed to create data nodes, lay eggs. Create, lay, data nodes, eggs. I don't know. I don't get the reference. Maybe that's something that I'm unaware of here. A set of standardized specifications for how to deploy Google Tag Manager's data collector on the site. It's not a specification, I think. A global data structure in an array format designed to pass information to Google Tag Manager. Yeah, I think that would be it. It's a data structure in the end, in a special format. Is it a data structure though? Because it's a function itself. Tricky, but I will go with this one. What is arguably the best way to initialize a data layer? Window data layer, this one, because it includes this OR function to say if this already exists, or no, if this already exists, set it to whatever it exists, or make it a new array. Yeah, the other ones don't have the OR functionality in here, so I will go with this one. The underlying data layer event for the page view trigger is GTM. Oh, let's see, GTM.js. Next. Being in preview mode, or maybe I should explain this a little bit. When you really look into the data layer, so in JavaScript and Google Tag Manager loads, there are three events: GTM.js, GTM DOM, and GTM loaded. And GTM.js is actually the page view trigger that most people, or container loaded trigger that most people know from the interface. Being in preview mode prevents tags from actually sending any hits to their endpoints. That is false. That would be like a blocker or a ad blocker installed in the preview mode. You can still, data will still flow to Google Analytics when you just have it in the preview mode. So I go with false. You do with bulk actions. What cannot you do with bulk actions in Google Tag Manager interface? What? I'm just thinking about the structure of the sentence. Okay, what can we not do? We can pause tags, definitely. We can add triggers to one or more tags. We delete one or more tags. Abandon changes from one or more tags. I go with this one. On the other ones, I'm not sure, actually. I haven't used the functionality too much or looked into it too much. No built-in variables are automatically enabled in a new container. That is false. There are built-in variables like, I don't know, the page URL or page path is automatically enabled. And this is, I think this also counts to the built-in variables. So I will go with that. How would you restrict access to a specific workspace? You can create a workspace user group through your GTM 360 organization. That's I don't have much experience with GTM 360, so that's like kind of, I would need to pay for it in order to find this out. So kind of tricky, right? If you don't know anything about 360 or too much about 360. So I don't know about this. By clicking the action menu in Workspace selection screen and choosing user permissions, Workspace access cannot be restricted. You can configure Workspace access through user management in the container settings of the admin section. Container settings. You can create a Workspace user group by clicking the action menu in the selection screen. No, you can't. Workspace access cannot be restricted. What does restrict mean in that context? Does that mean you cannot view, or you can definitely restrict if you just have edit permissions, you only have access to the default workspace, I guess, and yeah, the default workspace, I guess. And you are not able to create any workspaces, definitely, and publish any versions. So yeah, that would be a restriction. So I will go with this. Let's see. Pause tags are included in a container export. Pause tags. That I don't know. I honestly don't know. Interesting. Pause tags. Have never tried it out, so I will go with pause tags are included in container. Are included. I will just go with included, because otherwise it would be quite weird. Why would they make this decision to not include some pause tags? That would be my rationale. As soon as you pause a tag, it ceases to work in a live container. Ceases to, and no, false, because you need to publish a version first. You must always type something into the default value field of a variable when enabling the setting. No. Or when enabling the setting. But if the default value is empty, then you don't have to put anything in. I would guess. Okay, where are the contents of a custom HTML tag inserted on a page? In the bottom of the head, in the top of the body, in the bottom of the body, in the top of the head. I would say in the bottom of the body, because it's always appended to the last node, I think. Which trigger generates the GTM click event into the data layer? That would be the all elements click trigger. Just links, click, all clicks. Ooh, that's tricky, because I don't know if all clicks. It's called the click trigger. Well, you can click on click, and then you need to choose, I want to have this on just links or all elements. So I will go with all elements here, but it could also be all clicks. I'll go with all elements. Fill in the blank. I don't know that reference. Like no one is. No idea. I would be really interested in your answers if you can let me know in the chat. I will look at it in a second. The GTM container JavaScript snippet must be placed in the head of the page template. No, it doesn't have to be. It can be placed wherever. It's just recommended to be in the head. What HTTP status code do you see if you try to load GTM container that doesn't have a published version? I think it's the 404, not found. Which of the following statements apply to someone with edit access to a container? Edit access, okay. They can create tag. They can create a container version. I don't think they can do that. They can publish a container, that definitely no. They can create a workspace. I think they can also not create workspace, because there is the approve permission that actually let them create a container version and create a workspace. So I will go just with they can create a tag. Not sure. If a tag is set to fire once per page, what does this mean? Once per page. Okay. It will fire once per page view hit. It will fire once per page view hit to Google Analytics. No, it has nothing to do with Google Analytics. It will fire whenever the page is loaded or a history event happens. No. No. It will only fire once per page load. Per page load. It will fire whenever a GTM.js event is pushed into the data layer. I would go with this answer. So the once per page option is in the advanced settings of every tag, mainly for the it's an option for what if your tag is implemented multiple times through multiple events in the GTM container. So what if it deploys? If you have that setting once per page on, it will fire the once, definitely on the first event that it comes across, but then not anymore if it's also on a GTM DOM or GTM load. It will only fire once per page load. I would go with this. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, if you are an administrator of Google Tag Manager account, you always have full access to a container within the account. Full access to container within the account. I would say on the one hand, yes. So you could go into the containers. No, I don't think so. I think I had a client recently that gave me access. I don't know if I was an admin though. Gave me access to a Google Tag Manager account, but not to the container. So I wasn't sure. He had to actually give me access to the container as well. So maybe it's not. Maybe I could add myself to the container that I don't have access to. So I kind of would have full access, but I would go with if you always have. I would go with false. I don't always have user access. Okay, before we go to the next question, I would love to check out. Yeah, that's gonna be hard to. And Matteo says no, because if another admin create a container, you have only read access. Okay, you have to change your permissions. You can do it, of course. Okay, you could theoretically go in. Yeah, people say tough 1, 2, and 4. It's really hard to know which question we were on if I go back in the chat here. So if you could let me know, I will read out the comments. If you put in parentheses what question it was about, then we have a little bit of the context. Okay, let's just go on. And we have a lot of questions in front of us. So which video platforms does GTM Video Trigger work with? I believe it's just YouTube. What is the value of GTM start data layer variable? What is the value of it? The timestamp of when the page was loaded, the timestamp of when the container snippet was executed by the browser, the timestamp of when the GTM container loaded, the timestamp of when the container was published. I think number 2 here, when the container snippet was executed by the browser. Yeah, when it first loads, because it could be at the bottom of the page, then it would the timestamp of the GTM container loaded. Well, loaded, what does that mean? That would be the timestamp of when the page was loaded. Also, what does page load mean? Does it mean when the page load starts or when it ends? So I will go with this one. I think that should be correct. What is the purpose of the tag priority setting? It can be used to prevent a tag from firing until the previous one has finished running. It can be used to prevent a tag. It can be used to establish in which order tags that fire on the same trigger start executing. It can be used to sort tags by importance. It determines which tags fire first in a container. So we are talking here about tag priority. Tag priority is the number that you can put into the GTM, into the tag itself. So it has nothing to do with tag sequencing, which would be kind of this option. It gives kind of an importance, but in a certain context. The context would be when they fire. It can be used to establish in which order tags that fire on the same trigger, that's correct, start executing. So if it has a higher priority and it's both on the page view trigger, then this will fire first. But this is just the start. It doesn't mean that it will wait till something's over or so. It determines which tags fire first in the container. Determines which tags fires first. No, because that would also have to do with the trigger itself. So I'm going with this answer. Which of the following is not a container permission level in Google Tag Manager? So we have edit, approve, publish, contribute. Contribute is not, I think. Okay, I just heard that the internet connection might be a little bit spotty. If you notice anything, just let others know in the chat if you have any problems with the video. Then yeah, I don't know. I can't really do anything about the internet connection. Let's go on. The form, because we only have 40 minutes left. It took us 20 minutes for 30 questions, so we should get through this. The form element and click element built-in variables are identical in the functionality. I would go yes, because they both rely on this GTM element event kind of thing. There is no difference, I think. Which a variable does the matches CSS selector trigger predicate best work with? That would be click element. Click target is also possible. No, that would be the URL. No. Click element. How many workspaces can you create in the free version of Google Tag Manager? Workspaces. In the free version, 3. Although one is already taken by the default one. You can have access to Google Tag Manager account without having access to a single container. You can have access to Google Tag Manager account without having access to the single container. True. Okay, that was the question before as well, right? Fill in the blank. The best CSS selector for tracking clicks on div ID main is Isn't that this one? Div main. Or you could also say just main, I guess. Fill in the best CSS selectors. Why does he have 2 here? Don't quite get it. Okay. Anyways, what do you do with server containers click trigger? What can you do with a server containers click trigger? Is that server-side tracking here? There is no click trigger in a server container. The server container can detect clicks in the browser and fire tags as a result. You can use it to detect clicks in a server-side environment. It can be used to add additional details about the browser's click event to tags firing in a server-side container. I will just go with this one. I haven't played too much with server-side tracking just yet, but I cannot remember that there would be a click trigger in the server-side container. But yeah, let me know. Which of the following causes a client to execute in a server container? The server questions will be very tricky. Okay. Which of the following causes a client to execute in a server container? Ping command, pub sub message, HTTP request, Zapier webhook. It would be an HTTP request. Yeah. Although a Zapier webhook, that's a tricky one. I mean, you can configure Zapier to also send out an HTTP request to an instance. So yeah, I mean, Zapier is also good job. So I'm gonna go with PubSub message. I mean, PubSub is a Google cloud thing. I would say, I don't know if you can connect it to Google Tag Manager server side. No idea. Ping command. Ping. I don't know if a ping command, is that different from a HTTP request? It's definitely HTTP request, but Zapier webhook. Which of the following causes a client to execute I'm just gonna go with HTTP request. Hopefully that's right. Oh wow, this is JavaScript. What is the final value of items key in GTM's data model when you run data layer push? Items 1, 2, 3, items 4, 5. What is the final value in items key? The items key. Okay, so we are pushing here two separate objects. And, okay, so he wants to know. Okay, so I get it. The items key, would it be overwritten though? Interesting. That's an interesting thing. So if it would be two push requests, then definitely would get overwritten in the data model. But since it's, is this actually items key? Simo, this is a good question. If it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so is this, but then you would need to have kind of, no, that cannot be. So it needs to be 4, 5. I will go with not 4, 5. That's something you guys can try out actually and see if this, what it does in Google Tag Manager. That's an interesting one. What does the JavaScript error trigger fire? The JavaScript error trigger. When an error, any JavaScript error happens on the page, that's false. When any JavaScript error happens on the page that hasn't been caught by except. When any JavaScript error happens on the page that hasn't been caught by try catch. When any JavaScript error happens in a linked JavaScript files. I would go with this one. I would go with this one. Because it's not every JavaScript error, it's only uncaught JavaScript errors. And caught ones are normally caught by try catch. Hope that. What are defining features of GTM's custom templates? Okay, custom templates are also not super fit in. The utilized sandbox version of a browser JavaScript. Yes. Ability to do everything that custom HTML can, but in a safer way. No. They can be shared in a community gallery. Yes. Custom tag templates are much faster and smaller in size than custom HTML tags. No. Depends on how they are written, I would say. So these are my answers. What is required for a GTM container to correctly load on a page? CSP that allows script loads from tagmanager.google.com. The container must have a live version. Yeah, and needs to load correctly. Data layer must be initialized. No, that the GTM snippet does this automatically. The container must have at least one tag. No, that's not true. CSP that allows script loads from tagmanager.google.com. I thought the domain would be tagmanager.com. Isn't that the URL that is actually being loaded? So I will just go with this answer. What does the Google Tag Manager JavaScript container snippet do? It pushes an object into the data layer array. What does the GTM JavaScript container do? It pushes an object into the data layer array. Yes. It modifies the push method of the data layer array. Yes. It initiates asynchronous load of the GTM container file. Yes. It creates the data layer array, if not already created. Yes. Okay. I hope this is the question where everything is ticked. What is the name of the technology stack that Google Tag Manager's app containers work on? Firebase, Docker, Google Services Sdk, Google Tag Manager SDK. What is the name of the technology stack that Google Tag Manager's app containers work on? Oh, app containers. Also no idea. Google Services SDK. Google Tag Manager SDK. I'm just going to go with the Google Tag Manager SDK. Because yeah, I wouldn't know if it's Firebase. Firebase is the tool that would track. Maybe it's Firebase. I'm just going to go with Tag Manager SDK. Maybe that's also the old answer because they have changed something in the app thing recently. Okay, 43. What does wait for tags do in a just links trigger if enabled? It halts the link redirect while waiting for all active tags to complete firing. Halts the link redirect while waiting for all active tags to complete firing, kind of. It stores pending tags in memory and completes the execution after the link has redirected. No. It aborts the execution of any tags that were firing and proceeds directly with the link. No. The trigger doesn't fire until a specific tag has completed. No. So it would be the first one for all active tags to complete firing. Active tags would mean that, well, you get another option where you can put in the time, right? So if it hasn't completed after 2 seconds, 2000 milliseconds, then it will redirect the user. So I'm gonna go with this one, but I'm not sure. Which is of the following is a way to load multiple Google Tag Manager containers on the same page? Multiple Google Tag Manager containers on the same page. Okay. Okay, this is like kind of a 360 question because it's area, section, zones. Now the zoning feature, that's a tricky one. Which of the following is a way? A way, you can use environments and you can environments give you certain snippets, right? So you could put multiple snippets in one page, which I don't know why you would do that. Sections, I haven't heard of sections. Zones is a feature, but I think that's in 360, and zones I think has something to do with like work. I mean the zoning feature. I'm not sure. Multiple Google Tag Manager containers. I'm just gonna go with environments. A tag fires on a page view trigger will always complete before the tag fires on the window loader trigger. No, false. I mean, a page, the loading of the tag cannot be controlled. Google Tag Manager initiates the loading, but depends when it. Although, now here we get into JavaScript because if I fire a tag on page view, it starts loading, it goes into that queue, and I wonder if Google Tag, the window loaded event is a browser event. So it doesn't mean that Google Tag Manager will end loading, and then the browser will say, okay, the window loaded. Now, I'm not too familiar with the window loaded event. The window loaded, isn't that? Okay, I'm gonna go with false. Don't know. We need to take guesses here. Which JavaScript method of the event object will cause the just links trigger to not detect a click event? Stop propagation, stop delegation, prevent default, or prevent propagation? Prevent default. That is a JavaScript question. What is the name of the AMP component or that Google Tag Manager uses in AMP container? No idea. AMP Google Tag Manager, AMP Tag Manager, AMP Tracker. I will go with, oh no, AMP Analytics. I will go with AMP Analytics. No idea though. What does the URL source setting do in the URL variable? What does the URL source setting do in the URL variable source? URL source. Interesting. No idea. It determines which part of the URL is returned by the variable. Oh yeah, okay. It returns the value of UTM source. It's legacy feature and doesn't do anything. It can be used to provide a custom URL for the, I think it's this one. Is that the setting URL source where you would be saying, I want to get the query string or whatever? No idea. I will go with next. A Google Cloud Platform billing account is required to create a server container. No, that's not true, but if you want to publish or if you want to upgrade, you need to have a billing account. But do you need a billing account? Do you need a billing account for the sandbox? You definitely need to when you want to go into production with it. I'm gonna go with yes. Okay, let me see. Are you guys still with me here in the chat? False. Fire is true, but complete is false. It depends of tag script execute. Okay, AMP analytics. Okay, I got this one right. But if you want to create, you can do without. Ah, okay, got this one. Yeah, I went with true. Anyways, okay, good to know. Google Services SDK. I got this one wrong as well, Matteo. Okay, I wonder what you what is your score, Matteo, on this one? Did you go through it already? Don't have much time, but let's go on. Which content security policy source is required for a custom JavaScript variable to work? Content security. Execute custom script, unsafe eval, unsafe inline, nonce. I don't know. No idea. Okay. Matteo writes unsafe inline. Okay. No idea. What is a defining feature of the just links trigger? The just links trigger. Just links. Okay. It can capture clicks on an A element or any of its nested elements, and it returns the A element. It captures the clicks on the link element. It captures the clicks would redirect the user away from the current page. It captures only clicks that land directly on an A element. I think. Yeah, it must. No, it must be this one. It can capture clicks on an A element or any of its nested elements, and it returns the A element, because I think that's happening when you click on an image. The image is nested inside of an A element, and then it returns the A element. Might be wrong on this one, but it's interesting. Oh, I need to hurry up here because we only 50 in, and yeah, hopefully I will not be able to just click through it. What does check validation do in a form submit trigger if enabled? Form check validation. All forms must be corrected, filled out. You can specify a validation API, which the form trigger calls before firing any tags. The tag only fires if the form event default action hasn't been prevented. The trigger looks for any checkboxes. It only fires if them are all checked. No. All forms must be correctly filled for text to fire. No. You can specify a validation API, which the form trigger calls before. Isn't that around the event callback? The tag only fires form events. Default action hasn't been prevented. I will go with this one. Check validation. I think, which of the following are features available on Google Tag Manager 360? No environment. 360. You have which of the following features available only. So zones, approval queue. Okay, that's it. Which custom template API can you use to create a new user in Google Tag Manager? You can create, I don't think so. That would be weird. What does data layer push command return? The value of GTM data push. What does the JTA function, right? Boolean true false, a shallow copy of the pushed object itself. I don't know. I've never tried it out. That's an interesting one. Ah, okay. Wouldn't it be? Yeah, it would be like some kind of an ID, I think. What does Google Tag Manager set the maximum length of data layer array? Doesn't restrict the array length. I don't think so. You can push more than one object in a single data layer push. True. Ah, maybe you can't do that. And that other question that we had with the 1, 2, 3 actually would only take the first one. Interesting. Maybe it's... Can you push multiple? You can push more than one object. I'm just gonna go with false here. I don't know. Which of the following can trigger a container notification? A version is published and a workspace is sent for approval. A user is added to the container, a new container version is created. A single client can only use a single tag to fire in a server container. A single client can only cause in a server container. Single client can only cause a single tag to fire. No, that's false. You can fire multiple tags. That's the whole gist of it. Select all the browser history events that can be detected by the history trigger. It's definitely pop state, replace state, update state, and push state. I think so. For which of the following can custom templates be created? A variable and a tag. Oh, a client. Yeah, a client. What does the DOM element variable do? It can be used to inject the HTML matching the selection criteria. No. It returns true or null, depending on whether the HTML element matching the selection criteria was found on the page or not. It can fetch either the text contents or give an attribute. That's true. It can fetch the HTML axiom matching the... No. Okay. Which of the following triggers can you delimit to be active only on certain pages? The just links clicker, the form submit trigger, just on certain pages. I don't know about the timer trigger. Can you say element visibility? Definitely. Timer trigger. Gonna go with yes. Don't know. Which GTM features are on HTML success and on HTML failure particularly useful for tag sequencing? What are the particular features of version 2 of the data layer variable? It can access data properties with a dot notation. It can access data layer properties with a case-sensitive match. Don't know about that. Recursively merge objects. That's the recursive merge is the main feature. Access data layer properties set on previous page loads. No. What does no script block of the GTM container snippet do? It prevents JavaScript from running on the page. No, it loads the GTM container JavaScript, but so that all custom scripting options are disabled. No, it runs the JavaScript container snippet as an error. No, it loads HTML file from Google Tag Manager service if the JavaScript is disabled in the browser. It loads an HTML file. Yeah, I would say yes. Why does Google Tag Manager JavaScript library have a jQuery reference in the code? I have looked through the GTM JavaScript library and didn't know that there is a reference. Because JavaScript is also created by Google? No. Jquery is also created? No. Because some of GTM's functionality relies on Jquery to load on the side? I wouldn't say. Because it loads? No. Because it uses pieces of code inspired by Jquery. I would go with this one. I don't know about the other ones. What are zones used for? No idea. They can be used to publish the container selectively to specific zones, staging zone or UAT zone. You can be used to load the Google Tag Manager container through the main container. They can be used to create a user group with specific permissions. They can be used to group track triggers and variables together based on where in the website they are meant to be active. Yeah, I will go with this one. No idea though. How do you add a custom HTML tag in Android container? You can custom HTML tags in Android container. I think that's true. You need to import them from the web container. You load them using Android's HTML injection API. Don't know if that's something you can do. You add them regularly through Google Tag. That's definitely not true. No idea. I will just go with you can't add it because then Google Tag Manager would need to interpret custom HTML somehow. I don't think so. What files does the custom template GitHub repository require for the gallery submissions to work? I don't know. I have never added something to the gallery. Okay. Template, definitely. README. Yeah, I will go with this. Which controversial JavaScript method does Google Tag Manager execute to execute custom JavaScript variables? It's the document write thing. Okay, 18 questions left, and we have around 15 minutes, so I'm gonna just go through this. What is the purpose of the function call tag in Google Tag Manager's container for apps? You can add custom code for the function call tag, and it will execute when its trigger event happens. You can use it to run JavaScript. You can use it to execute specific functions defining in the app code. You can use it to call specific functions created internally by Google Tag Manager. I will go with this one. What types of element injections can you do with custom template APIs? You can inject script elements, image tags. Can you load iframes? Iframe. Wasn't there something about iframe in there as well? I'm just gonna go with next. Which dependencies are required for the pod file for Google Tag Managers to work on iOS app? Which of dependencies? Gonna go with this one. Not sure. Which of the following named default environments in a GTM container? Default environments. Are the named default environments in Google Tag? Okay, there is a live and there is a latest version. The draft is not an environment. I don't know, not sure. Which authorization protocols are supported by Google Tag Manager's REST API? The REST API. Google Tag Manager's REST API. Okay, yeah. We have OAuth. That's how I do the extension, but I don't know about the other ones. Which of the following browser events can be detected by Google Tag Manager's triggers? Which following browser events? The browser events, okay. The submit, the link click. Visible is not a browser event. I don't think so. And timer also is not. I'm just gonna go with submit and link click. What does data layer push function console log this get do? Okay, that's something you would need to try out. I mean, with JavaScript questions, like if you do them from textbooks, it's quite hard. It logs whatever is currently stored in the data layer with the key e-commerce. It logs the value of variable named e-commerce. It creates a log. I mean, this object get. I will just go with this one. It might be that you can actually pull it out, but I'm just not sure. Because the question is what this refers to. Is it that the object in the end? And then can you do this? I don't know what the get command is as well. So I don't know. How do you initialize the data layer in a server container? You don't. There's not a server container. Which of the following commands works with Google Tag Manager? With Google Tag Manager, data layer true, data layer function, data layer push, data layer push, this one. Oh, you could have more options. Anyways, what is the purpose of client in server container? What is the purpose of the client in a server container? Can be used to mock a web browser for testing. It passes incoming HTML, compiles them into events. It works similar to environments. It can be configured, increase the server throughput. Okay, I'll go with this. What are values of get Google script custom template API? Are valid values. I'm gonna go with these. What cannot you do with Google Tag Manager's APIs? Export, import container versions, view workspace changes, create a container, create a zone. You can definitely do create a container, export, import container versions. Don't know if you can, yeah, you can pull the whole version, but maybe not go back. View workspace changes. I don't think you can view the changes itself. What native JavaScript method does Google Tag Manager use to communicate debug events from the site to the preview interface? Send event, send beacon, send post message. I mean, they send it over to the preview mode now, so it's not on the same page. Send beacon. I'm just gonna go with this. It's a HTTP request. Fill in the blank. A web page can implement a feature of custom templates, which restricts what custom template APIs can be. A blacklist. Right. I'm just gonna go with black. A request can only be claimed by a client server in a server container. No, you can false. You can create multiple of these. I don't know. Haven't played too much. Which global object is created by Google Tag Manager? It's Google_Tag Manager. The custom template API forces the function passed as an argument to execute asynchronously. I would just go with async. Async like this. Maybe. I don't know. For a custom template to be accepted to the community gallery, at least one unit test must be written for it. False. I don't know. How many Google Tag Manager containers can you add to a single account? A single account. I don't know. I didn't know that there's a restriction on that one. Why should you use the Shas 257 API in a variable template? Because it's not strong enough for hashing, because you should use the hash API instead, probably, because you should do all hashing in the backend, because it's asynchronous and variables rely on synchronous execution. Could be. Is there? Oh, no, because you should do the hashing in the backend. Which time zone does the custom tag firing schedule use? Configurable in the tag settings, time zone of the user's computer clock, UTC, Google server's time zone, which is Pacific Standard Time. Can you choose it in the tag settings? I think so. Not sure. What is the purpose of additional tag metadata under a tag's advanced settings? You can attach metadata to the tag in order to improve the organization governance of the container. You can use it to send extra information with the tag. You can add metadata which will display the preview mode. You can add metadata which will be included in a tag's data object. Additional tag metadata. I mean, what does it mean? Is it like nodes? I don't know. Which custom template API would you use to call a function in a global variable? Call a function in a global variable. Execute in window. I think it's call in window. Or call window? I mean, one of these. That's a tricky one. Call window. I don't know. What is the recommended scale, minimum, maximum for server container app engines flexible instances? I think you need to have 2 to 5. But I'm not sure. What does Windows Google Tag Manager data layer reset do? Nothing. Clears everything in the data model. Clears everything in a data layer array. Resets all triggers to their initial state. All triggers. All triggers. I will go with this one. What does the... Okay, we're almost there now. What does the event callback key do in an object pushed into the data layer? You can set it to a function which call on all tags have completed firing in the data layer event. I think that's correct. It specifies the amount of time before the tags timeout. It's a function that's called after each event tag fires. It's just a regular data layer property and can be accessed via data layer variable. Yeah, I won't go with this one. Safari's intelligent tracking prevention blocks Google Tag Manager from loading. Safari's intelligent tracking prevention. False. I don't think Google Tag Manager is blocked. What does support document write option in custom HTML tags do? It overrides the native document write method temporarily to prevent the page from breaking. It adds a document write call to the tag, making it faster to inject code. It adds parameters to the document write command, which prevents the tag from breaking. It required to be checked whenever running JavaScript in a custom HTML tag. That's not true. But the other ones, it overrides the native document write method temporarily to prevent the page from breaking. No, the page can break if you use that function. It adds a document write call to the tag, making it faster to inject code. It's not making it faster. Well, at least I don't think so. It adds a parameter to document write command, which prevents the tag from breaking. Okay, this is the last question, and we can spend 4 minutes on it. Let me just go back to the chat here. Cool. We have a lot of things you can push function, but not do nothing usable. 200, I guess. In tag false. Okay, not sure which questions were, but great that you played along and you can go through the quiz yourself and maybe get that certificate. So let me choose here. It's not faster, which prevents the tag from breaking, prevents the page from breaking, prevents the page from breaking. And this one is required to check whenever running JavaScript in a class. This is also false. So I really don't know. This one is a cliffhanger here. And I think one of these 3, and I think it's one of these 2. And I will go with... this one. I don't know. What does this support? It enables the support document write option. That's what it does when you have that enabled. So it enabled something. So I just missed the point here. Okay, guys, you ready for the big reveal? I did my best, I hope. So let's see. Oops, what the result is. So I don't have a sound here. Although, do I have a sound? No, I don't have a sound here to have like a dramatic moment. And 3, 2, 1, let's see. Oh, they're being recorded. 60 out of 99 points, 60%. Wow, I must have gotten quite a bit wrong. That's interesting to see. And average score is 41%, so I'm above average. That's also interesting. Yeah, this was a great course, and this was a great advanced, beginner, intermediate. So kind of in the okay, the categories. So the advanced, I was not good. The beginner was quite good, and the intermediate, I was half good. All right, I take that. I don't actually know what is the passing grade. Is there a passing grade? I think you can retry again and again and get your certificate that way. Print your certificate. So here we go. This is my certificate. Don't steal it. And a grade of 60%. So that's the overall thing. I took it once, and so hope you have more luck this time. What does this chat say? Oh, I was not on the was I not on the right thing? So my results here. Here you can see I've reached 60% of and 60 of 99 points. That's quite interesting. I didn't expect that there would be so many GTM apps question in there and so many server-side tagging question in there. So that's quite tricky. And then when we look at the whole JavaScript thing, it's like, yeah, that's quite tricky if you don't try it out. I think there's much to learn here, and I think it's quite interesting, this whole thing. So thanks for sticking around with me, and I hope this was useful. And especially if you go through this yourself, yeah, and everybody who's watching this and has gone through the test themselves, the skill test, then leave your result down below, and I'd love to hear from you. What grade was you? But yeah, keep in mind that I have gone through this for the first time. Maybe I'll do it again, and maybe I've learned something again. But this was fun, and definitely something that you can do in your spare time if you have the time. So what can you do to get over 60%? I don't know. I would probably need to dig into JavaScript even further and try out every little detail. But this is the score that I reached, and probably other practitioners out there will be higher on this one. So yeah, would be interested to see how other people do in this one. So please let me know if you see this at the end, to post that in the comments down below. And I also want to shout out, obviously, Simo. He has been great guy to learn from over the years, but he also has a new company called teamsimmer.com, and he is offering courses now on server-side tagging. So if you want to check that out, then head over to Team. Oh, I haven't showed the website here. This one. Okay. So head over to Team Simmer here and check out what they have in store for you as well. And this is also where you will find our test that we just went through. I don't even know. It's not in the thing. Maybe because I'm logged in and would need to log out. Anyways, this is where you can check this all out. And please do so and go through the whole thing yourself. I'm pretty tired, and that's why I will wrap this thing up. If you are interested in watching another cool video, then check it out right over there. And if you haven't yet, then subscribe to the channel right over there. Now, my name is Julian. Till next time.